joining us now. Yulia Mundell, a Ukrainian journalist. She served as press secretary for President Zelensky. Yulia, I think you've had rolling blackouts. The lights were on, the lights go off. You're in Kyiv. She's also the author of The Fight of Our Lives, My Time with Zelensky, Ukraine's Battle for Democracy and What It Means for the World. Also with us is retired four-star General Barry McCaffrey. Yulia, first to you. President Zelensky's goals during his speech, it seemed to be to rally Americans behind him, to certainly rally this somewhat divided Congress. There's the rump group of Republicans, not the leadership, who are against the $45 billion that was then on the table, still is with this omnibus bill, but also wanting more, wanting tanks and jets that he's been asking for quite some time, and saying, we don't want your troops, we don't need your troops, we can drive them ourselves. Speak to me about that, and also, getting that personal relationship, that FaceTime with the President of the United States, so critical so that they have a better understanding of each other.
Well, thank you, Andrea. In fact, there were a lot of very important critical messages that made this visit so historic. First of all, that was an opportunity to come to Washington and from the heart of the United States to say thank you. And President Zelensky repeated it so many times, to thank American people, every American and the government for the support through this brutal and very difficult 10 months of Russian invasion in Ukraine. Second, he showed that he reminded that this is not, just some battle there for, territory or for money, or just politics. This is actually the fight that every American will understand, because this is the fight for our values, and this is the fight for freedom, for equality, for human rights. This is the fight, that is worth fighting for. Then he, of course, look at him. It's not only about what he says. It's also about that he tries to talk with all his image. That he arrived in this hoodie of military color, and he arrived just from Bakhmut, which is the hottest battlefield right now. And he was standing there showing that probably he is not following the ordinary protocol, but at the same time, he doesn't have time for this. It's about essence. It's about connecting the dots. It's about connecting the presidents and connecting the people on different sides of the ocean. And showing also the fourth message, very, very important, is that he was for the first time talking about the peace, that he sees that the peace is possible in 2023. But it's never possible to put Russia at the table of negotiations if there is any doubt that Ukraine can be weak. Unfortunately, Russia understands only strengths, and everything that the United States invested to Ukraine, military, financial, diplomatic assistance, political assistance, it's all about, getting to peace, and it's all about fighting autocracy. So this is very important. But I know personally from work with President Zelensky that it's a very important thing for him to invite President Biden to Ukraine. The last American president who was coming to Ukraine was George Bush in 2008, before the financial crisis. And this is like an important message to see one of, the most powerful people in the world, the President of the United States, coming to Ukraine, actually. So President Zelensky wants to make the platform of peace in the next year. And of course, he was inviting President Biden. I know he wanted to see him here earlier, and I'm sure that his desire is still huge. So let's see how it will work out. But definitely an important historical visit to see, as President Biden put it, the eyes of each other, right? And to see the angles, to share the opinions, the ideas, and to understand what is on the table and what is the cost of this peace and how to move forward with it.
Well, it certainly was an extraordinary speech. We were all just gripped by his appearance here, speaking in English. General McCaffrey, what we're learning today also from the White House is confirmation now that North Korea is supplying weapons to the Wagner group. The mercenaries, very brutal mercenaries who fought in Syria, as you know, and have now been used and deployed to Ukraine because the Russian troops, the regulars, were so willfully inadequate and poorly trained.
Yeah, well, certainly when you look at the balance of power in Europe, the NATO nations with their just enormous GNPs, economies, defense industries combined with the United States, and here Russia now has been turned away by China, I might add, an important ally, potential ally, is grubbing for weapons from the Iranians and the North Koreans. It just tells you Putin's in trouble. And, the North Koreans are not exactly doing smart munitions. So they're going to get a lot of small arms ammunition, artillery ammunition that may keep them afloat. But back to the central challenge right now, Andrea, it seems to me is you can't win a war on the defensive. You can prevent disaster. And so right now, Ukraine is in a situation where they put the Russian army in check, not checkmate. They're being destroyed from the air over time and by artillery fired by the Russians. And we've got to provide a tool for the Ukrainians to break out of it. One battery of Patriot missiles is not it. They simply must have long-distance surface-to-surface missiles, ATACMS, and the M1 tank to try and give them the ability to unravel the Russian army. Putin's going to try for a spring offensive. He's strong-arming poor Belarus to join in the war, to widen the war. I don't think they're going to buy into this. But Ukraine still has immense casualties and is in great danger, and we need to change the game on the ground.
And we're not, because we're told authoritatively that as a result of these meetings, they're not getting tanks, they're not getting jets. I don't believe they're getting ATACMS. So precisely, they're being given one battery of Patriots, which is barely enough to play defense, but not to play offense. And importantly, General, a very authoritatively written piece in the New York Times today is that there's a new intelligence estimate, or assessment, I should say, that this is stalemate, that Ukraine cannot do what Zelensky said he is not only hoping, but is confident, is that they can win. What is your assessment?
Well, it may well be. I mean, some of the fighting in the east has descended into Verdun. It's trench warfare, it's artillery bombardment, it's huge casualties on both sides. The Russian army has completely failed at an operational level and at a tactical level. So you're seeing now pirate forces, the Wagner Group, not subject to international law or scrutiny, sometimes being in command of Russian army forces. A bunch of 40,000 convicts given guns and unleashed on the Ukrainians. So there is a dangerous stalemate. And by the way, that stalemate works on Russia, too. They are under tremendous economic constraints. He's facing internal rebellion. Hundreds of thousands of young men have fled Russia. So stalemate is not a good outcome for Putin either.
Yulia Mendel and, of course, Barry McCaffrey, wishing you all the best possible holiday, Yulia, under the circumstances. And, of course, to you, our eternal thanks, Barry McCaffrey. Thank you.